happened.
They used to confuse us in college.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm sure they did.
Walking
The
through them
great
all.
Ryan Blackwell is here, and Ryan, thank you so much for doing this. And do you know the story of Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig?
No, not that. No, I
Okay,
don't.
Wally Pipp was a first baseman in the 1920s for the New York
Okay.
Yankees, and
Mm-hmm.
he told his manager he had a headache, and he took a day off. Lou Gehrig took over and played in 2,130 consecutive games.
Wow.
So there's an old phrase, you don't want to be Wally Pipp. I'm just going to tell Etan, you don't want to be Wally Pipp. That's all I'm saying.
That's great.
How are you? How are you?
Good. How you doing? Can't complain.
Good. We didn't have a show yesterday because I was in Syracuse, of all places.
It's
And
not
I couldn't
bad.
believe I was up there. It felt so weird. I sent you some of the pictures, right?
No, you should though.
I have pictures in my classroom. My students are all wearing masks. They're all 6 feet apart, and they had to hold up a sign with their name on it for contact tracing.
Wow.
And that if what they do is they log that you were there then with these people. And if, let's say, for example, let's say you, me, Etan, and Caleb are in a class, and Caleb's roommate gets COVID, they contact trace. They say, who's been with Caleb? Who's been with him? Where has he been? What classes has he been in? And every person in the class then has to take a test.
Wow.
That is hard. That is NFL caliber contact tracing.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do it with school, because my school, we're scheduled to go back. We have the hybrid learning. We got like Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday cleaning. And then the kids that don't want to go have an option just to stay online only, remote. So it's going to be interesting because teachers, they're trying to sign a petition now because they don't want to go back. Teachers are scared and parents are scared, and they're like, it's too soon. We need a little bit more time to figure this thing out and figure out the remote learning. And so who knows? I think possibly by October or something like that, we'll be remote totally again.
But I'll tell you one thing. I am a big proponent now, after one experience, and maybe I should be more open-minded, but I'm a big proponent now of all or nothing. Do it all virtual or all in class. I don't like half and half, and my class was half and half. My class had 16 kids. 9 of them were on Zoom. So the 7.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure. I got math. 7 were there, and they're right in front of me. So when I ask a question, they just blurt out the answer. The people on Zoom are on mute, and they have to unmute themselves and talk, and that's awkward. And I'm not blaming those kids. Please, if they're watching, I'm not blaming them. They didn't do anything wrong. But that I didn't like that. I don't like that feeling. The camera is all the way in the back of the room. So I'm this big to them. And I have a mask on, so they can't even read my lips.
Yep.
The whole thing is hodgepodge, and that makes no sense. The kids, most of them had, and I got to tell you a corny joke I told. Some people thought it was really funny. Some people didn't like it. The people in the chat room, you can tell me if you think it's bad. I'll tell you my joke. But a lot of times the students got there. New York state law is if you are traveling from a certain part of the country, you have to quarantine for 14 days. So those students are not able to leave their dorms. You can imagine the first 2 weeks of college. You're staying in your dorm and you're not going anywhere. So that's why a majority of them couldn't go. But there was one kid that was sick. Now, not COVID sick, he claims. He claims he's not COVID sick, but he's deathly ill. He's got something.
He
wouldn't put his camera on. And I don't know what he looks like. But his name is Ross, and he was pretty good. And he was saying how I'm not putting my camera on because I'm sparing you all. I look like hell, and I don't need you to see me throwing up and everything. And I don't want to be near anybody. And we appreciate that. And then my question, because the class I teach is about podcasting. And what I asked everybody to do was tell me a little bit about your background, where you come from, what you're doing, what your situation is at school, and then what's your familiarity with podcasts. you know? And he just tells this whole sick story. And then he goes, as for podcasts, I'm pretty green. I don't listen to a lot of them. And I just go, the sick guy is pretty green. It's corny. I know it's corny, but I don't know. For some people, it resonates. Like, my mother thought that was a great joke. My wife didn't laugh at all. So
It's
I
great.
it was weird. It was
Yeah,
really weird.
I'm sure it is.
But and just to follow up on a topic that we've been talking about all week, and then we'll get into some other news, obviously today. College campuses are very strict in the classroom. They don't govern off-campus housing, fraternity row, the dorms. I don't know what the situation is in the dorms. And when I was walking out of Syracuse, the Newhouse building, there was a storm cloud coming. Like it looked like it was about to pour, and it wound up pouring. So it was right. So nobody was outside. Everybody had run for cover. So I couldn't tell how many people had masks or not, and I don't know. And the last point on this that I want to make is Alabama had 560 cases. North Carolina has 210. The NC State football team had to cancel their workouts because they had 25, and Syracuse has 3. Something's not right.
Something's not right.
But what? How do you interpret that? Like, what do you think happens there? Like, do you? How is that? Like, do you expect to see 100 cases pop up at Syracuse in like 5 minutes?
Yeah, at some point, because like you said, the kids that aren't in the dorms, how do you gauge what they're doing? How do you know what they're doing? They could be out partying, they could be at bars, they could be downtown, they could be at the mall. You don't know where they are, where they're coming from, and if they're not getting tested, how do you know they're not spreading it? And now the CDC just said that even if you've been around somebody, there's no need to get tested. They just said that like 2 or 3 days ago. So it's like, who do you believe, and how do you know what's accurate and what's inaccurate? That's the biggest thing.
It's so weird. I mean, the whole thing is so weird.
It's crazy.
It's strange. I don't know what to say. Yesterday, the NBA playoffs did not continue, but the NBA players agreed to resume their playoff in their bubble. The NHL canceled all their playoff games. A handful of Major League Baseball games were canceled. What did you make of all that? How did you feel when you saw all this stuff in sports happening again?
It's crazy. It's a very crazy and unusual time with everything built in together with COVID and everything. It's just like the most unusual year of our lives. And to see the NHL do it was very surprising, because you look at NHL and not that whether they want to stand or they don't, that's their prerogative, and that's great too. But I was surprised to see them follow suit, because you look at them kind of like the Republican League, so to say. They stand for the flag, and obviously it's majority.
You're talking about the NHL as the Republican League?
Not the Republican League. I'm not going to say it like that.
I would say it a little differently, in that, to me,
I've heard people say that.
They are isolated. They're in Canada, and they're disconnected.
So people have said that. I've heard that term. That's why I'm using it.
No,
people say, "Oh, they're like the Republican League."
Yeah.
Whatever.
I get it.
So it was interesting to see them follow suit. And obviously, as a fan of basketball, I loved watching the games. I thought the games have been great. I thought the product that's out there, even though the guys haven't been playing for months at a time, I thought the chemistry was starting to build on all the teams. And so I was enjoying seeing that. And then for them to do that, obviously, there's reasons there, which is unfortunate all the way around, obviously. So it's just a really crazy time.
I was very impressed with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
I just thought the way they carried themselves, they didn't come off childish in any way.
Yeah.
I thought they came out very mature. And if I'm a Bucks fan, I am proud to be a Bucks fan, in my opinion. What was your
Well, I guess that what I was reading, they made the decision. Obviously, they've had some players that have had some issues, so I get that with police in the past. I can't remember the player's name, Brown, and other player. But so I get that. But I guess some of the other players and teams were caught off guard.
Mm-hmm.
They felt like, they kind of went
They
about it on their own, and they should have communicated. Right, should have communicated, which I get too, because they're all in that together. They've all committed to being in that bubble, and it's a huge business. So there are a lot of ramifications if they don't play, monetarily speaking, and other things involved. But so it's crazy. But I get it. I respect both sides, just like I respect the NHL's decision when they decide to stand for the flag. I respect everyone's decision and their platform. Yeah.
The NHL, the way I read the NHL, and I didn't talk to anybody about it, and I didn't even bring it up. I saw how they were getting ripped for playing on Wednesday night, and I thought that was inappropriate. My only point about the bubble is they all want to get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, delaying it? You're going to, like, I'm just saying what I thought their mentality. I don't think they thought for 1 second about it, and I think they were only doing it as a result of the backlash that they got, because if you ask those players, they're like, can we get this thing over with? I want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in Canada, and yeah, a bunch of them, but there's a bunch of foreigners that are overseas during a pandemic. They're not racist for saying, I want to play. Like,
right.
I don't think there was one team that was in there, and there was one coach, and I'm so sorry for forgetting his name, but I read this early this morning. It was one coach that said, I shut off social media and the news, and I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm psyched up for my game. I'm focused on my game. And I don't blame him in the slightest. I don't think he did anything wrong. I didn't think the NHL had to do it. I was pleased that they did. And I don't think there's a lot of controversy around it. I just thought the ripping of them, that's where social media gets to be obnoxious, because people jumped on them. And I was just like, give them a chance. Like, I don't know.
I've read a lot of comments. I read a bunch of comments, and people were like, well, I've been a fan of NHL. If they're going to, jump into politics as well, I'm done with them too. In Major League Baseball and NBA, I'm like, where does it end? You know what I mean? Like, what is the problem? Everyone has a point of view. Everyone seems to think that they're right. On
this doesn't
every
have to be
aspect.
Political. Right. This doesn't have to be political. And I say the same things. I feel like I say the same things all the time. And who I normally do this show with. What a social activist he is.
Yes.
And I applaud him. And I want to get to something he did today, because I want to play that for you folks as well. But I like the line that Bradley McDougall of the New York Jets said, and I was on a Zoom with him, and he just said, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm.
And when George Floyd was killed, we saw this outpouring. Right? We saw protests and shows, and CNN was doing live town halls, and Sesame Street even had a show to teach young kids what all this stuff was about, and everyone did it. And then how long after did Breonna Taylor happen? Like, when did that happen? And now this is happening again. And it's so funny, because I am such a pro-police person in the sense that I live in New York, and I saw 9/11, and New Yorkers, the police are the heroes. And I hate this. And so what I have said, and I said this to you off the air, and I'll say this to you on the air, what I want to hear from police officers.
Yeah.
More than LeBron James. And I'm not disrespecting LeBron James, but I don't care if they play the NBA playoffs or not, because that's not going to stop racist cops from shooting black people. Just like Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick did his thing, and Etan and I had our fights about this. Colin Kaepernick, my criticism of Colin Kaepernick is I wish he spoke out about the real issues more, because Trump turned it into, if you're against the flag, if you're kneeling with Kaepernick, you're against the flag. And I'm not against the flag. I love the flag. I'm fine for the flag. They had a mission, and they weren't getting their message across. And that was my criticism of Kaepernick. That, and he wore a stupid Fidel Castro shirt, and I hate that. But
yeah,
but
I get it.
And my dad's Cuban. My dad's born in Havana, so I was insulted when Kaepernick did that, and that's not what Kaepernick's message should be. If you're gonna do that, something like that, then you got to go on the Today Show and Good Morning America and all the sports radio stations in San Francisco and talk, and get cops involved. Because when I hear a cop denounce this stuff, that makes me feel like change is happening.
Yeah, I have, a lot of friends in Syracuse that are cops, and that work for the police department and law enforcement and judges, and they're good guys. They're great guys. They will give their shirts off their backs for anyone of any color, and I know that. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, a couple weeks ago, and he said, Ryan, we go into the neighborhoods and try to do our jobs. And he said, we're driving down the street and kids are giving us the finger, and telling us to F off and, basically giving them the cold shoulder. And they're just there to do their jobs. Like something happens, kids are getting shot. Syracuse right now, the city is parallel to what Chicago is going through. They said that statistically, the same number of kids are getting shot in the inner city, and they're going in there to do their jobs, and they're getting, what are you supposed to do? And I feel bad for them too, because I know he's a good guy, and other guys that I'm friends with are good guys too. So it's like a no-win situation. It's very disappointing because, like you said, it really comes down to communication. It comes down to, how you grew up and the relationships you've had growing up. If you're not used to being around a certain person your whole life, then maybe you look at them a certain way. So, there's a big disconnect all the way around.
And I'm not picking on your guy, but can I use your guy as an example?
Yes.
Okay. Did your guy, can you give me his first name so I don't keep calling him your guy? Just tell me his first name.
Yeah, Joe.
Okay, Joe. Does Joe, who I'm sure is a good dude, I'm not questioning that. Did Joe go to any rallies?
I'm not sure.
Off-duty,
to be honest with
when
you.
he's off
I'm not
duty.
sure.
Okay.
That's a good question. I don't know.
And did he do that? And could Joe, and I'm just putting this on him because I'm trying to get a point across, could Joe go to a rally where there's a microphone or a megaphone and hold up his badge and say, "Can I speak?" And go in one of these, and like I said, he can be white, he can be purple, I don't care. But can he hold up a badge and just say, what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin is absolute garbage? And I don't blame any of you. And I'm a cop. And you do that, and you get that at every precinct.
Right.
And you'll affect real change.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, when the rumor came out that the NBA was going to cancel the whole thing, and I said, that's not the point. You're losing its effectiveness because that doesn't solve anything. And that's when the Republicans come out with their garbage about cancel culture.
Right.
Because we're not trying to cancel things. What I just want is I want black people to stop getting shot. Like that's all I want. That's all that this is supposed to be about. And when it becomes about sports, it becomes about sports. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And it really goes to there's incompetence. As you know, there's incompetence in every form of life. Bad coaches, bad teachers, bad parents, bad doctors, bad lawyers. It goes on down the line. And there's bad cops that are incompetent, don't know how to do their jobs. How is it that two cops cannot subdue one guy without shooting him 7 times? Like how you can't tase him, you can't get out of billy club, you can't tackle him. So how are these people getting hired if they can't effectively do their jobs the right way? And I know people are going to say, well, these people shouldn't be, running away from the law and being disobedient. And I get that part too. Of course, that's another issue in itself. But how is it that people can't walk away in handcuffs or tased or with a broken arm or shoot them in the leg or shoot them in the knee, or something like that 7 times in the back? That's pretty ridiculous.
I mean, it's wild. It's wild. And you see those stories. And what I thought, I really did think that I thought Breonna Taylor was too soon to George Floyd for real impact to happen. So I'm not demeaning them, but I'm going to group them together. But we've had a good couple of months where this has been talked about. And Donald Trump says he doesn't want to watch the NBA because they have Black Lives Matter on their on their court, and that's your loss. And and it becomes about that, and it's not about that. And how can you be an ally? And what can I do? And a lot of good white people are going, can we help? Can we help? Like, what can we do? What?
And now Trump just came out and said he's willing, or I think through his spokesman, said, I'm willing to work and talk and help the NBA if they want to sit down and talk. So who knows, what value that has. You never know when it's political. Yeah, I saw I read an article, and everything's political a lot of times, and
right, he's running for office.
Who knows?
Right,
he's running for office on both sides. They're all running for office.
They're all running for office, and it's going to be that election is going to be. I'm going to propose to Etan. Tell me if you think this is a good idea. I want to be on live all day. I just want to be on live, and I want to watch him. I just want to watch the sweat pour out of him. I just want to do a live stream all day.
Oh man,
I don't know.
Politics is a dirty game. It's so crazy.
It's crazy. Did he ever tell you the story about when I didn't appreciate his reach?
No.
So we started this show. I've known Etan because last year we did that radio show in Syracuse. Mm-hmm. And as soon as the pandemic hit, they shut it down, which was dumb. But Etan's thing was we don't have a platform to say stuff. There's a lot going on. And Twitch had reached out to me, and I didn't know what to do. And I said, if we can figure it out technically, can we do a show together? And he said, sure. So we do the show, and he wanted to sprinkle in politics. And I have never done politics on the air. Mm. I've never done that. But, okay, I'll run with it. And Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race. And he has on a campaign guy, not the manager, but a campaign spokesman or something for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And he has him on our show. And my initial reaction was, I said, Bernie's people are adamant, like they're rabid for him, and Biden's people are very ho-hum. And I said, that's, and to a degree, that hasn't really changed, but that's how it was. And I said to this guy, and I'm sorry I forget his name, but I said, what I would say is for Bernie to endorse Biden, they should go on a Zoom, just like you and I are, and Bernie should say, this isn't about whose name is on the White House. That's not the important part. What's important is these issues. And Joe, I'll get behind you, and my people will get behind you if you can do X, Y, and Z. Can you do 2 of the 3? And Biden has to say it. He can't stutter. And he has to say, sure, I got it. Well, swear to God, 5 days later, they're goddamn on YouTube talking to each other virtually. And I went, holy moly. I said to Etan, I said, I'm not doubting you ever again.
Yeah.
I said, that's crazy. And then when George Floyd got killed, he had Eric Garner's daughter. Mm-hmm. And he didn't tell me ahead of time, so I thought it was a WNBA player. But he had Emerald Garner, and I was shaken to my core.
Yeah.
That was something. And I don't question that stuff again. But anyway, our man was actually invited to be on MSNBC. That's not the reason he's not on the show. He's at orientation for his kids' high school.
Oh, wow.
And it's a drive-by orientation.
Drive-by orientation for online
because Mr.
learning.
has not left his house in 5 months, is actually just going to drive his son to high school to meet, I guess, the teachers or whatnot. I don't know.
That's dedication, staying in the house.
He's been in the house.
That's crazy.
Well, he had the heart surgery.
Right, I remember.
And he's high risk, and he said, I'm not going anywhere. He has not gone anywhere. Now, granted, in his house, he has a full gym. He has a jacuzzi and a pool, and he has 7,000 TVs and just crappy internet because we've seen him. And you watch this thing because he was on MSNBC this morning, and you'll watch his internet craps out. Now it made me laugh because now MSNBC knows what I deal with every goddamn day.
That's great.
But anyway, he was asked to be on MSNBC this morning, and we have it here on the show. So I'm gonna unplug my my headphones so you can hear it. but the viewers are going to see it right here on the screen. So this is Etan Thomas this morning on MSNBC.
Sports. You have this sense that the boycott yesterday kind of came out of nowhere, but that's not true. I mean, there's a long history going back to Muhammad Ali as a conscientious objector to the Vietnam War, and really turning up the volume of their protests since Colin Kaepernick took a knee and paid a price for it. But talk about this moment right now. Tell me what's happening right now in these teams.
Well, this is a moment where you're seeing athletes as a whole just say that enough is enough. And I think that right now, you know, what a lot of people don't understand is that they see athletes on TV. They see athletes like LeBron and, you know, everyone, they're playing, they're in their sport, they're in their craft. But they don't understand that they're fathers. They don't understand that they have these talks with their children every single time something like this happens. You told Robert Ory earlier, and, you know, I can relate to everything that he said as a father. Every single time something like this happens, I have talks with my children. You know, my son is 15, just turned 15, and I'm terrified for him. Every time something like this happens, I literally can't sleep for a few days. And
there it is.
To do when he's stopped by the police and what he can't do, and you know he's going to be driving in a year, and that frightens me in itself. So those are the conversations, the things that go through athletes' minds. That for some reason makes America think that we're in this protective bubble where these things don't really bother us or affect us, but that just isn't true.
What do you think about Doc Rivers' statements and LeBron's tweet yesterday? F this, enough is enough. I mean, do you think that this will represent a next level? I don't want to use the word breakthrough because that seems like an artificial measure, but they have the country's attention, the NBA does right now, by postponing the games in the playoff, by being in the bubble, by being together, and by having the country sort of really feeling this vacuum at the highest levels of the federal government.
Well, it's tough because, you know, you would think that the country would have taken notice as a whole a long time ago. You know, this isn't the first case of police brutality, the first case of a black man being shot, you know, that's caught on video. But I think that what makes this different is that the entire NBA had a work stoppage, had a boycott, and now are voicing that they want change and they want it now. So now it depends on where you go from here, because there's a lot of different directions they can go.
Yeah.
I wrote a column for The Guardian, and I was urging for them to push the NBA CEOs, I don't call them owners for obvious reasons, but NBA CEOs to really use their power and their influence to be able to push for laws to be changed in the cities where their teams are. So, for instance, Mark Cuban in Dallas, he has a lot of power and a lot of political clout in Dallas. So he could even, you know, put pressure on the city to be able to say, okay, if the Dallas Police Department doesn't adopt some of these physical police reform, these different protocols, that we're going to withhold funding from you. And I bet you would see change happen immediately. And that's what I want to see. Take that next step because, you know, NBA, these are billionaires. We're talking about, you know, Mick Harrison in Miami. We're talking about, you know, Ted Youngsto's in D.C. These are billionaires, and they have power to be able to really push for change. It's different for millionaires. So millionaire NBA players have been doing a terrific job of letting their voices be heard, letting their objections be heard. But I really want to see the next level because I want change to actually happen.
It's a perfect point because these are the same billionaire owners who get cities and towns that can't fix their bridges or schools to build them beautiful stadiums. So that's a brilliant point. I want to ask you about LeBron James' effort to, we spent a lot of time talking about the effort to really impact voter suppression and to make it easier for people to vote, to turn some of these empty arenas, since everyone's playing in Orlando in the bubble, into giant voting precincts. Is there an opportunity to draw more attention to that, to engage more players and teams in that effort?
Oh, definitely. I mean, what the players of LeBron is doing is really ramping up a voting effort is phenomenal. I mean, the way that he is, you know, when you talk about him in particular, the way that he is using his platform is on the level of the athlete activists that we've seen in the past. And I think that you have somebody at the top of their craft using their voice, using their platform, and pushing people for actual change. I saw a quote where he said just a few days ago that 50% of his mind is on the playoffs, and the other 50% is on how he can help his black people. And that's powerful. That's a powerful statement to make. So, yes, what he's doing also is making it easier for other players to be able to stand up. If you remember, a little bit of a period of time in the 90s, things were a little bit quiet. Things were a little bit different. The whole climate of the NBA was different. And now you have the top player who is speaking out. The top player saying he's not going to shut up the dribble, like Laura Ingram told him to do. He's going to speak out. He's going to talk about politics. He's going to come back at Trump. He's going to talk about voter suppression. He's going to talk about police killings of unarmed black men and women. He's going to do everything and be that Muhammad Ali type of mouthpiece in this day and age. And it's inspiring for all other athletes who are really following behind him. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Talking about some of the very things you're in.
Oh, there's a lot there. What was your reaction? And first of all, he never dresses like that for this goddamn show.
Yeah, it's great. Like you said, Etan utilizes his platform to the utmost of his ability, which is great. He's always been that way. He's passionate about, his activism, which is great. And I've always respected him for that. And talking about LeBron and Mark Cuban, and Mickey Harrison. And I mean, they have a lot of power and influence. And if they can utilize that to a positive way to affect change, in a positive way, why not? I see why not. They have a lot of money, a lot of influence, and a lot of power, and all the owners do in all the cities. With that being said, also, we can never, I think back to, my parents. My parents grew up in the South. My grandparents grew up in the South, poor. They had to deal with a lot too in the South, Alabama, Kansas. I mean, they dealt with racism a lot more then than we even do now. We have a lot more freedoms than we do now.
Your parents grew up in Alabama, or you grew up in Alabama?
My parents did, and my grandparents, obviously. So, they dealt with a lot, but also we have to, and I have conversations with my friends all the time. That is also good, but there's got to come a point when we have to internally fix our culture from within. So it can't just be always, what is Mark Cuban going to do? What is Mickey Harrison going to do? We also, on our end, have to do a better job of fixing our own communities and teaching our children values and things, because it's not just going to be on them. You can't just put it on somebody else and say, you have to do this for us. We need change from politicians and Democrats or Republicans. It's got to be an effort on all sides.
The idea that an owner could do it, with that can't be league wide. So it can't be. Just play this out for me. It can't be Roger Goodell. It has to be the owner of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it has to be localized to impact local
and the players.
Neighborhoods.
It's got to be the players too, because this is really what
the players are doing it. Don't you think?
I think they could do more.
But what the owners can say, the owners can come out and say is the owner of the Chicago Bears can. So
we're speaking about cops. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about cops.
Okay.
What we need to do is we need some kind of police reform.
Yes. Okay.
Again, I'm not a politician. I don't know, but some kind of police reform, and the owner of the Chicago Bears can put his money where his mouth is and says, if that happens, my team's not taking the field Sunday.
Okay.
People would react. Look at how fast Dan Snyder changed the name of the Washington Redskins when FedEx pulled out.
Yeah.
Right? And Dan Snyder's a scumbag anyway. But this idea that you can
Etan's favorite guy.
Oh, well, he's a scumbag. I mean, and now you're hearing about the calendar. Did you see that?
No.
So now there's talk about, I guess the cheerleaders went to a beach to film a calendar, take photos for a calendar. And a bunch of cameras took pictures of them changing. and they made a little video, and they circulated it throughout the office.
Wow.
And I mean, what a joke of an organization. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I made the comment the other day, like, I am the most open-minded human being you'll ever know. But everything has to be consensual. My God.
Right. Yes.
Like, that's awful.
Right.
And it's amazing. You know, you're starting to see a little bit. The owner of the Sixers, who also owns the New Jersey Devils, they committed $20 million to, I think, the Police Benevolent. No, it wasn't that. It was something to raise awareness of Black Lives Matter, and it was it had the intention. But you know what the sick, like, again, take the pandemic away, right? Just say, if there's not real change in Philadelphia, Tuesday night's game's not going to be on Comcast Sportsnet. Say that, and you'll piss off the network. And you know what you'll say to the owner? The owners can say is, we'll pay what you would have earned if we had played that game on your network. We'll pay all your advertising.
Yeah.
That's change. That's real change.
Right.
And that's what has to happen, more than the Lakers and Clippers say they don't want to play the season.
Right.
The other story that I think has to be told is, did you see Dom Smith, the outfielder for the Mets? I guess his name is Dominic Smith, but they call him Dom Smith.
Okay.
And I don't know him. I used to work for the Mets, but I don't know him. He's young, and he was in tears. Like, if you Google him, he was in tears when he spoke with the media about what had happened in Wisconsin, and they had this idea that the Marlins and the Mets were going to take the field. They put their uniforms on and they took the field. So the networks all went to their pregame shows, and the play-by-play announcers all took over at the top of the hour. Like, they all did that. And then one guy on the Marlins took it. It might have been Dom Smith of the Mets. I don't know. I was driving. But they took a Black Lives Matter T-shirt and they draped it over home plate. I
did see that picture of that.
Both teams left, and they didn't play.
I saw the picture of that shirt.
They got in full uniform. They were ready to go. Pitchers were warming up, and they were never going to play.
So they pump faked them.
Yeah. And there was a idea, and I have to clarify who these people are in my own personal way. Jeff Wilpon, who's the owner of the Mets, who's a scumbag about he gives Dan Snyder a run for his money. Just a jerk. And he and I had many run-ins, which we're not talking about. And Jeff Wilpon suggested to MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, who also I'm not a big fan of right now, that what they would do is they would sit out for an hour, and then at 8:00 come back and play the game.
For an hour?
They were just going to sit out. No one would know what they were going to do, and then in an hour come back. And Brodie Van Wagenen, who is the general manager of the Mets, who used to be a player agent. That's his claim to fame. Like, he was a very powerful player agent who's now the GM of a baseball team, which who knew? And he thought the idea came from Manfred, not from Jeff Wilpon. There's 3 people in the Mets interview room, and the stream is still on. And Brodie Van Wagenen goes, "This is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. Rob Manfred is tone deaf, and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And this doesn't leave this room. But my God, we can't do that." And it was live. And it was live on Mets.com.
Oh, that's great.
And some kid with 400 Twitter followers recorded it and posted it on Twitter for his friends. He was doing it he's not trying to be big. And it went viral. To the point of the Mets had to issue, and I have the statements because I'm still on their goddamn mailing list. Even though this organization, this is one of the classless organizations I've ever seen. And I've worked for a bunch of teams, and 85% of them I've left on wonderful terms. But man, this is something else. Oh, I'm loading the
That's
statements.
crazy.
So this is Brody Van Wagenen. This is a statement, and it says, Jeff Wilpon called Commissioner Manfred this afternoon to notify him that our players voted not to play. They discussed the challenges of rescheduling the game. Jeff proposed an idea of playing the game an hour later. I misunderstood that this was the commissioner's idea. In actuality, this was Jeff's suggestion. The players had already made their decision, so I felt the suggestion was not helpful. My frustration with the commissioner was wrong and unfounded. I apologize to the commissioner for my disrespectful comments and poor judgment in inaccurately describing the contents of his private conversation with Jeff Wilpon. So that came out at 7:18.
Mm-hmm.
And so your message, you left the field at 7:04, and 12 minutes later, you're doing that.
Right.
This team doesn't know how to get out of its own stupid way. So
Yeah, that's bad.
This is bad, right? This was a statement from Jeff Wilpon. To clear up any misunderstandings, it was my suggestion to potentially look into playing the game later because of scheduling issues. Brody's misunderstanding of a private conversation was and is inexcusable. We fully respect our players and the Marlins players' decision to not play tonight and appreciate the sincerity of all those who wish to draw attention to social injustices and racial inequalities that must be addressed. The entire Mets organization remains committed to creating meaningful change in our society.
Sounds like lack of communication all the way around.
And
That's bad.
Do you think though that Brody Van Wagenen doesn't get fired, but the guy who left the stream on Mets.com does?
You never know.
Like, what does that guy make compared to what Brody Van Wagenen makes?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
He's definitely getting cursed out by somebody.
And it always is your the microphones are always live. You morons, your microphones are always live. Like
right.
You heard Tom Brenneman last week, the announcer. You heard Mike Milbury make those awful comments about there's no women in the bubble to distract the players.
Yeah.
Which is it is so stupid to say on a microphone.
Yeah.
Like I would
even though it makes sense.
Right. It's just you can't say that. And how these people don't know any better is amazing. And Brody Van Wagenen, and I don't know Brody Van Wagenen personally, but man, he doesn't come off as really smart.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know him at all, actually. I've never even heard of him. So,
well, consider yourself fortunate.
That's bad.
So where do sports go from here?
Good question. On a lower level at the high school, we're still trying to figure out what we're doing. You know, this is crazy. So football can't play in New York State, but soccer can play. Soccer is a physical sport too. I mean, you're literally right next to someone, run up and down the field, you're sweating, and the parents are going nuts because they're allowing soccer to play and maybe one other sport, but not football yet. And so they're trying to figure out how to, Cuomo decide that soccer wasn't, how do you play soccer, not football? How do you figure that out? So that's on a smaller level. Maybe we're going to play basketball in January. So I don't know. You've got the things with COVID, and then you've got everything with everything that's going on in the world.
Well, you're
on a bigger spectrum.
Explain to our audience who you coach and where you work, because last time we had you on, you were at the TBT, right?
I was at the TBT coaching Bayon's Army.
Right.
So I coached Liverpool High School, which is a large high school in Syracuse, right outside of Syracuse. So I coached the boys varsity basketball team. So I've been doing that this will be 6 years. Yeah. So
are you a teacher in addition, or just the basketball coach?
Teacher assistant. So I push into classes and help kids out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And do the kids in Liverpool, do they know who you are?
Yeah, I mean, because their parents know.
Right.
And obviously they have YouTube and they can just look me up, but I've been coaching Boeheim's Army too. So that, helps keep me in the public eye too. So they, kind of get a kick out of that as well.
Because I don't want to change the subject too much, but I just have to tell you, when I was up in Syracuse last year, I did a radio show with Lawrence Moten. And he's in a Syracuse school system as well, and he handles the troubled kids. I think it's
Hillside or something like that. He works at, yeah.
But he handles like kids that are in trouble. He's like a counselor.
Yep.
And I meant this, and he laughed. And this was not a problem, but I mean no disrespect in any way to his job and how hard his job is. But I said, so if I'm a kid at this school, and I want to meet Syracuse great Lawrence Moten, I just punch the kid next to me, and I get to have a one-on-one meeting with him?
Pretty much. We've had to send a lot of kids from Liverpool to Hillside because they couldn't cut it at Liverpool. So, we've sent them their way.
I was just like, hey, I would have loved if I was 11 and I found out a Syracuse legend is in my high school. I'd be like, hey, man, take one for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got into one fight in my life, like a real fight, and we beat this kid up, me and two friends, and I did it, and I was like 9 years old or 10 years old.
Yeah.
It was in elementary school, and my mother was a substitute teacher, and she was a sub in this the special ed.
Yeah.
So she was a special ed sub. This story makes me sound awful, but it's not. It's I was in 4th or 5th grade, and there was an incident in the special ed, and I guess this kid, he didn't hit my mom, but he like pushed her or something. And you know how rumors spread around school. By lunchtime, it was, that this kid Vernon punched your mom? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I was 10. And I was just like, he punched my mom? How can you do that? And I beat the crap out of him. And I felt really bad.
Stuck up for your mom. She can't be mad.
Up for my mom.
Yeah.
And these two kids, they pinned him against the fence, and I decked him in the chest. And I remember it, and I remember it's the only time in my whole life I've ever been in a real fight, and that was the only one, and I was defending my mom's honor.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
You get a pass on that one.
But I beat up a special ed kid, so it wasn't a good thing.
That's not cool.
and I was white and he wasn't, and it was a bad scene, but I had good intention.
Bad.
I had very good intention. So back to sports that are
professional sports.
No. What I'm saying is sports that are not financially driven.
Mm-hmm.
Is there even a debate? What's the debate? I understand why the NFL's trying, even though doctors would tell you that's probably not a good idea. I get it while they're doing it, and as long as they have zero tests, I will not criticize the NFL for playing. They have zero tests. When they have 150 tests, then we'll talk about whether or not they should be playing. The NFL gets a green light, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But sports that have no financial motivation, it's just for the good of the kids.
Yep.
Is there a debate?
I think the kids need to play. That's just the social interaction, what they get out of sports, the mental, physical, and social, positive aspects of that. I think they need to play, and we just got to figure out. But people are trying to say, okay, if you're not in school, how are you going to play sports? And I get that too. If you're not going to go to class and you're not at school, how can you play sports and go practice?
True.
It's just kind of hypocritical, which I get too. So it's hard. It's hard to say. I want the kids to play, and as a coach, I want to coach. That's what I love to do. I'd love to get my teams in gyms. We have a brand new $20 million facility at Liverpool, and we can't even get inside the gym to do anything because the governor says so. You can do stuff outside, soccer and whatever else. We can't even practice, or I can't even have camps. So it's kind of doesn't make any sense.
So is your attitude like the numbers are low enough? And I'm just going by New York.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
The numbers are low enough that we should just give this a try. Have parents said the same thing?
Yeah, I think parents are saying the same thing. They want their kids to play, especially the parents of kids that are athletes. Maybe the ones that aren't athletes are saying something different, possibly, which I understand too. But parents want to see their kids play as well.
See, my whole thing with school has been, I just don't think they're prepared to do, for example, what Syracuse did last night. Like what I saw, the amount of preparation and protection just seems hard. And in those schools, the class size is a big issue. So, for example, if you have normally 28 in a class, would you say that's fair in Liverpool? Like,
Yeah, normally, yeah.
28.
Yep.
And they're saying they shouldn't have more than, at least in my class, in my rule, it's 15. If you have more than 15, you got to split your section and do it twice, and you don't get paid extra.
Yep.
And what do you do? And we talked at the top of the show about, I don't like half and half.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
a
don't
fan
either.
of half and half. I say keep it virtual or nothing. And I took my daughter, so my daughter's in 7th grade, and I drove up to the middle school to pick up a Chromebook. They have Chrome in our town. We pay ridiculous taxes.
Yeah.
We get Chromebooks, right? And we're in this town, and we're in the Chromebook, and my daughter says to me, she says, "Dad, I think you need to come with me." And I go, "Why?" And she says, look at the line, all the parents. And I go, that's doubling the amount of people.
Right.
So, okay, so now I put my mask on, I go in, and now I'm standing there. And the assistant principal, who I've never met, is asking the kids' names because every Chromebook is assigned to a kid. So they need your name. And these little kids, they're 7th graders, they're not loud.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid in front of us, she's like, Smith, I'm giving her a name, S-M-I. And the principal, if this is the kid, this microphone is the kid, the principal's here. And the principal, with a mask, is going, "What's your name? How do you spell it?" And I was like, what in the world is this? And I just thought at that moment, I said to my daughter, I said, now you know why we're keeping you here?
Right.
Like, do you have any doubts? And about 2 days later, my school district decided everything's virtual till November.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I can do that. Like, I can imagine if all my students came on this Zoom right now, I think we could all have a conversation. But not half and half. Not.
That's what we're pushing for. Teachers, I think, maybe because the city schools in Syracuse, I think, just made a decision to go sometime in October 30th, and then they'll make another decision, which, kind of makes sense if you need a little bit more time to figure it out. But someone like my boss who has 4 kids in CNS districts, Cicero, North Syracuse, he's got a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. The 8-year-old might have to be home by herself some days. And how's that going to work? Because it's all scattered.
And that's hard because people work.
Right. People work. They work. He's athletic director. His wife's a teacher. So, it's just it's a mess. It really is.
It really is. And I don't know what the solution is. And, you and I haven't had the college football debate.
Mm-hmm.
So the college football debate to me is college campuses are cesspools for germs. And there's no such thing as social distancing when you have 18 to 22-year-old kids. You were in college, I was in college, and I loved college. I'll never take that back. And I was never thinking about what germs I could catch. I thought about making sure I had protection. That's all I cared about. And the argument, to me, I thought the Big Ten and the Pac-12 was very prudent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy about it. And, you hear the stories. I see it on social media. Like, do you know how this is going to crush Happy Valley? I understand. I'm not happy. I'm not celebrating this.
Right.
But I
love
it
football.
Was prudent. I love football too, and I want it. But I wanted the ACC to follow that.
Mm-hmm.
And my argument was, can the SEC be the guinea pigs? because the SEC has been like, well, we owe it to America and we have to play, and this is crazy, and you got to have some risk every time you get on a field. It's a risk, and all that crap. And then Nick Saban, my favorite, who says, "Don't misconstrue. We're not doing this for money."
Okay.
Right.
Says that $9 million you get every year.
Right. I'd like to sell you a bridge. Like, okay. And so based on that logic, I wanted the SEC to be the guinea pig. And the Big 12, I didn't have a strong opinion either way. But when the Pac-12 and the Big 10 canceled, I said, wow. I said, I want the ACC to do the same.
Yeah.
And it was just to protection. And they're not. And I don't know. You live up there. Well, you're not there now, but you have a home up there, and you're part of this community. What's your thought on the ACC and all the different? Oh, that changed your camera.
Sorry.
Who
Somebody
is
just
that?
dialed in.
Was that you?
Somebody dialed in. That's why. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. Did you? How do you feel about like the dome has been being renovated and it's going to open, and you don't know who they're playing, and like the opponents. That's the thing. The opponent. Let's assume Syracuse is taking this beyond seriously, and no players are screwing around. Let's just assume that. Which, again, I'm having trouble with those numbers.
Right.
You're playing these teams, and you're not just playing them. You are on them.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
If they're going to go ahead and do it, I thought like the NBA and the TBT and the bubble worked. I don't know how football is going to work, especially if you're going to travel. You saw it with baseball, the major league, where they were traveling between cities and these guys were contracting the virus. So how can they contain that?
You notice only National League teams, because we've learned that COVID-19 has a National League bias.
I guess so. Yeah. So
no American League players got COVID.
Obviously, I want to see the dome, but if you're going to have football but no fans, there's going to be half fans, or you're going to be 6 feet apart.
No fans.
So it's no fans.
But that's Cuomo. That's not Syracuse. That's Cuomo. They'd have fans if they could.
Right.
My whole thing is should Dino Babers be saying we can do this? Because that's what he's saying. He's like, we can do this. We're fine.
If he has that positive mentality, if he really thinks they can pull it off, then go ahead. If that's, the kids are isolated at school, which you and I both know, who knows what they're doing. Again, it goes back to how are they being isolated? How are they being quarantined? I guess they're being tested. I want to see him play. Biased as a fan, I want to see him play, and obviously a Syracuse fan. That'd be great. So I want to see how it works out, to be honest with you.
Syracuse opens up September 12th. That's not far away.
Mm-hmm.
September 12th at North Carolina, where they have 210 cases, and they sent their kids to all virtual. But their football team is on the field, and my whole point is that's who you want to play?
Yeah.
And they go to Pittsburgh. I don't know Pittsburgh's situation. Your first home game is home for Georgia Tech, coming from Georgia. Georgia. Just Georgia. That's all.
Yeah.
And then they play Duke in Game 4, the second home game. And then the third game, home game, fifth game overall, is against Liberty.
Which people are saying scratch that game. They're telling them to scratch that game.
Of course, you have to scratch that game, but they're not because Liberty's paying a fortune to play Syracuse.
Right. Yeah.
And the two lines from Liberty, and I'll do this because Ryan's not going to want to be on the show again anymore. But number one, Hugh Freeze said that they're not going to test every week because none of their guys have symptoms. That's their coach. And Liberty, Jerry Falwell just resigned because he watches his wife have sex with a pool boy.
What?
Come on, you didn't see that?
I didn't see that.
Oh my God! You know who Jerry Falwell is, though, right?
Yeah.
Jerry Falwell is the junior. He's the holier than thou president of Liberty, and he just resigned because some guy who had a bad business deal with them came public and said that he used to sleep with his wife, and the guy watched. Which again, I want to state for the record, if everyone's consensual with that, I don't have a problem with that. I just
That's crazy.
If you're watching and you do that, I'm not judging. As a matter of fact, put your email in the chat. But Liberty, Mr. Hypocrite, Mr. Racist Hypocrite.
Yeah.
And Brent Axe, a good guy we both know, has written a bunch of columns saying you have to take that game off your schedule for COVID reasons, for social reasons, for racial reasons.
Yeah.
There's a million reasons to cancel that game and cancel Liberty. And right now on August 28th, October 17th, they're scheduled to play Liberty.
It's not about money, though.
Well, that's Nick Saban. To their defense, that's Alabama. Alabama, who has 500 cases but pressing on.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being a teacher at Alabama?
No.
You'd wear a stormtrooper helmet. I wouldn't. I would dress like the Mandalorian. I would not go in that classroom. No way.
And they're not online, obviously. Yet
No,
they haven't decided.
They're going forward. They're going forward.
Wow.
It's brutal.
How many students at Alabama? 40? 30?
I can do that in
1,000?
2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
How
it's
many
a lot.
Students at University of Alabama. 38,563.
38,000. Yeah.
That's pretty fast.
So they're gonna be in class. They're gonna be at parties. All right, makes sense.
University.
That's crazy.
This is the Washington Post. This was 2 days ago. More than 500 cases at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. 160 at the University of Missouri in Columbia. This is the Alabama president, Mr. Stuart Bell. Must make a pretty penny. He says the rise we've seen in recent days is unacceptable and, if unchecked, threatens our ability to complete the rest of the semester on campus. 5 days after classes resumed, the mayor of Tuscaloosa temporarily closed bars and warned that the local health system could become overwhelmed. Ohio State suspended 228 students for virus-related violations.
It's crazy because I was watching something the other day, and the two reputable scientists were talking about, how long it takes to get vaccines for viruses. And they said it takes years, 7, 8 years, sometimes up to 20 years. And so you're supposed to wait that long, even with something like SARS. And
that's Hakeem Warwick's point. Hakeem Warwick came on. We did a watch party during a Lakers-Blazers game.
Mm-hmm.
And Hakeem Warwick came on, and we didn't expect this at all. But we started talking about Jim Boeheim's comments, which were out of line. And we were just commenting on him, and I think we played him. And out of nowhere, Hakeem Warwick was like, oh, he's right. We were like, what? And the people in the chat were like, this just became better than the game. Watching Etan and Hakeem Warwick. It's on the archives if you go to the Twitch channel. Watching Etan and Hakeem Warwick go into battle, it's like they're underneath the paint, battling for position. They were on each other. It was wild.
That is great. I got to check that out.
Oh, it's hysterical. And I see people like that, and there's enough people like that. And that's my problem with COVID. Because, okay, you're asking kids to be super disciplined. Let's use Syracuse as the example, because this is not far from the truth. So Syracuse is being super serious, and they're taking this season very seriously. Okay, what happens if you lose 3 of the first 4 games, and now you're 1-3, and a hot girl invites you to a house party?
I'm depressed. I'm going. You're going.
I'm
mad. Screw this season.
Screw it. I don't care.
Yeah. And release some tension. Yeah.
Right. I gotta get out. I have to go. And that's my fear for the NFL too, just for the record. See, the NFL, there's a massive paycheck and the contracts are not guaranteed. So the NFL I have more faith in. And the NFL, I'm not saying don't play. Because the NFL has this uniform plan. And that's what the plan is. But the argument from my standpoint, at least from my standpoint, has been everyone's different. Syracuse is not North Carolina, and North Carolina is not Clemson, and Clemson's not Florida State, and you're all different. And forget bubble. Like, this is what I don't like when school presidents and coaches say, well, our players are isolated. Yes, today. But who are you playing against?
Right.
And do you know what their situation is? And that's where I have misgivings about colleges, and I say the same thing about basketball. Now, in basketball, I heard, like, you know how the ACC has the ACC Big Ten Challenge?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you do that, you could isolate everybody.
Yeah.
You could put everybody in a bubble for 10 days and play, a week's worth of games, and then everybody goes to their respective schools, right?
Right.
Like, you could do that.
Yep.
And you could leave the bubble once your game's over.
Yeah.
So, like, if Syracuse plays Ohio State, I'm just making a matchup up. If Syracuse plays Ohio State, when that game's over, you disperse. So the bubble is big in the beginning, and then it dissipates.
Yeah, that's what we did in the TBT.
Right.
Once you lost, you leave.
Yeah, you leave. And that's what's going to happen in the NBA and the NHL if they ever get their first rounds over.
Right.
But that's the argument. Like, if you're a hockey player, just to go back to that conversation, if you're a hockey player and you're busting your ass in this thing and you can't see your kids, you can't see your wife, you're stuck in your hotel, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, and you just want to go home. Tuukka Rask, the goalie for the Bruins, said, I'm out of here. And he took off. And luckily the other goalie's been playing well, or else they'd be like calling for his head in Boston. But still, he just said, I can't do this. This doesn't feel right. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And you're asking 22-year-old kids, and I'm assuming they're all seniors. But like they're young kids. And I don't know.
Yeah, like the freshmen coming in, like
what are they supposed
how
to do?
disciplined are they?
What are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
And like my students yesterday, they're all juniors, seniors, and grad students. Like they're ready to go into the world. Like they know what they're doing. But they're not hanging out at house parties on, Euclid Avenue in on a Thursday night. And house parties is where it's happening because the bars are closed, I think. Right? Like, aren't the bars closed? Like, you can't go to 44. Is 44 still there?
You can go off campus downtown because they're open.
The Armory Square.
And the restaurants are open. Yeah, Armory Square, there's a lot of places open. So they get off campus. We had that happen at a house party at high school at Liverpool probably about a month and a half ago. I think one girl went to a huge party, and then like some of the football players contracted it. So they had to halt their workouts, at Liverpool. So yeah, it's the same thing. Same thing.
I hear you. And I'm not putting Alan Griffin's supposed to join us in a couple minutes. I'm not putting him on the spot in that how do they play? It's not you have to understand the tone. It's not how do they play, it's how do they play?
Yeah.
How disciplined can you be?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Have I told you my Marek Dolezaj joke?
No.
I want to kidnap Marek Dolezaj and I want to steal his metabolism. I want to do like an X-Men thing. Did you see that he eats like 7,000 calories to try to gain weight?
I saw he put on 10, 15 pounds and he still looks like he's,
he looks like a string bean.
Thin as a rail.
How does he do that? I
don't know.
I just want his metabolism for like an hour.
I saw Billy Seelick the other day. He came into town and we saw him, and he was the same way. Like he would eat and drink beer, and he was just thin. That was his body type.
Do you hate people like that?
It sucks. Because I love to eat. I love food. Love food.
I hate that more than anything.
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed having sports back?
Yes, I have.
Has it been really cool, or is it just like you got into a routine without it?
Yeah, on a person. I mean, I got into a routine, but I was starting to get bored. So once the TBT, they said they were going through with that. That was great because that gave me a chance to get back in the gym, be around the guys, and then the NBA went through, and those, like I said, those games were great. Baseball, I watch just because something's on. Golf,
What's your
I
baseball
enjoy.
team? What's your baseball team?
Growing up, Cubs.
Right, because you grew up
Cubs fan. Right, Cubs fan. So, that was happening when they won a few years ago. But yeah, it's been great. been great. The basketball has been great, I thought.
The playoffs have been great. The regular season was
No, yeah, that was kind of tune-up. It kind of like was exhibition, it seemed like.
Yeah.
But lately it's been good.
I thought the NHL did a better plan, but they have more competitive balance. What they did was they had an extra round to the playoffs, and they gave 9, 10, 11, 12 seeds a chance to play in a 5-game series against 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 played 12, 6 played 11, 7 played 9, and 7 played 10, and 8 played 9.
Yeah.
And in these 5-game series were intense as crazy because that's the playoffs. That it was playoffs. It was early and it was playoffs. And from the minute they dropped the puck, it was fighting tooth and nail because of those teams, they all think they can win the championship. The New York Islanders right now think they can win the whole thing, and the NBA doesn't have that. It's my criticism of the NBA, and Etan hates it when I do this, but my thing with the NBA is when you were the Washington Wizards, like or the Brooklyn Nets, like what were you supposed to do? Like you're just there, like you're a place filler. Like that's what it feels like to me. And yeah, Phoenix made a run, and that was kind of neat, but the reality of it is that's few and far between. And this first round, yeah, that was great when Portland upset the Lakers. Like that added drama,
Right.
but nobody expected that to continue. You know what I mean? Like you have the rare upset. Like everyone remembers Denver beating Seattle.
Yep.
Like, everybody remembers
Dikembe,
that.
absolutely.
Right. We all remember that. In hockey, that happens every other year.
Yeah.
You know, like there's the Washington Capitals. They make the play. They win the President's Trophy every year, and they won once. And that was it. And it was when they won, they got the monkey off their back because there were so many playoff exits.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are in a first-round playoff series in the NHL, and now they're into their second round, but when you're in a first-round playoff series and you go to overtime, you are playing like you think that that's the end of your world, and that's intensity.
Yeah.
And the NBA can't match that intensity. The NBA can match it in the finals maybe, or in the conference finals maybe.
Conference finals. Right. I mean, how many years did we have Cavs, Warriors? It was like, okay, this is part.
And you knew
whatever.
that in November.
And you knew it. Yeah. I agree. It's hard. And for those teams at the bottom, they're just not that competitive. When a team wins 19, 20 games, that's tough for a season.
Do you sense that there are a lot of teams that are not trying?
You know, I think there's a lot of youth too, compared to, you know, you got like the LeBron James, who's a veteran team, and then you got teams that just are very young. Because they're drafting kids so young and they just need time and they don't have a lot of experience. I just think that's the huge disparity there, huge difference, you know. And then they always say that teams throw games to try to get a better lottery pick, which I've seen. Which
is crazy because
Orlando did that, I think, a couple of years ago.
But it's hard because all you're doing is increasing a percentage point.
Right.
Like you go from having a 13% chance to an 18% chance. How many games did you have to lose to get to that?
And as a competitor and coach, I can never do that.
It would drive me crazy.
I could never see myself saying, I intentionally want to lose to these guys. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's hard. And it's one of those things about the NBA that I have always sensed. Look, I don't want to go on a massive tangent, but I was not a David Stern guy. I was an anti-David Stern guy because I worked for the Seattle Supersonics. And David Stern conspired. I mean, people who have watched the show, you know.
Move the team.
He conspired with Clay Bennett to move the team. And,
yeah,
you know, I remember I did a podcast when David Stern died, and I had to do it in segments because I wanted to give him the respect for revolutionizing the NBA the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
So I had somebody on that was very, I'll tell you all the names. I think I had Etan on because he was from the union perspective, you know? Here, I have the guest list. When we did the legacy of David Stern, it was Etan, but then we put a guy in Seattle at the end, and it was like, are you out of your mind? Like, like David Stern's name is mud in Seattle. They can't stand him. And it's just so funny. Like, if you're going to tell a story, tell it completely.
You're right, the complete story.
I
Yeah.
tell the same thing about Kobe Bryant. Like, if you're going to talk about Kobe Bryant, talk about the good, the bad, and the great. You know, you talk about him. And, you know, that's part of the whole argument. So I wasn't a big David Stern guy. But I used to accuse the NBA because I thought that as long as their network games featured good teams, they didn't care about any other teams. Like, they don't care. They personally do not care about other teams, the bottom rung teams in the NBA, and they wouldn't even consider bringing them into the bubble. You know what I mean? And to their defense, the NHL didn't either, but the NHL lopped it off at the 12 seeds on each team. The NBA
Didn't they try to
was
do something in Chicago? Weren't they looking to
they were
do
trying.
something with
all the teams that weren't invited? They were going to do their own bubble, and I thought that was a great idea. I thought it was a great idea. I was all for it. I was like, do that. That's wonderful, because it was more content and it was safe. As long as it's safe. When we're talking about basketball, notice we don't talk about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the vernacular. It's not part of what we discuss. And I get the sense that it's very, very different that way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, from my standpoint, the bubbles are the bubbles.
Yeah.
And I'm officially saying that the NFL is bubble free. Like, as long as you keep having, they had 23,000 tests, 0 positive cases. Play on.
That's crazy.
Play on.
0.
5
That's
staffers,
nuts.
5 staff members, 0 players.
Yeah.
Again, if they're lying, they're lying. Just like Syracuse has 3. And I have the map, and I haven't figured out how to share my screen. But I have the Syracuse University COVID tracker. Where is it? Oh, here it is. The COVID tracker. New student cases since last reporting period, 1. Current active cases within central New York, not just on campus, 10. Students currently in quarantine, 39. Changes in current quarantine, 13. Total tests administered on campus, 21,656. Total recovered cases, 23.
Interesting. And then CDC said, don't test anymore. There's no reason to test if you've been around somebody, unless you have symptoms, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But they have 10. Alabama has 560. I don't know how. And forget Alabama. I shouldn't pick on them. North Carolina. North Carolina has 210.
Yeah.
That's the argument. But like I was saying, when sports are bubble free or COVID free, I like the sports. What has been your thought on baseball?
Like I said before, they were traveling, and it just seemed like that was the bad idea. Bubble. They needed to be bubbled, and when they started to travel, and guys started to contract the virus, then obviously that just showed that a bubble works, and their system wasn't working. Basically.
I mean, I don't know how they can. I don't know. Oh, they just announced the NBA postseason officially resumes tomorrow. The thing with baseball, I thought, was there was no rules when it came to what they were going to ask the players to do at home. You could go home. And to me, that's day camp. Like, what if a kid at day camp, his father's a doctor and he's exposed, or his mom is a healthcare worker? Why can't she be a doctor? Like, who knows? I'm throwing examples out, and your exposure is then based on, you're not partying, you're not going out carousing, but you have exposure. Yep. And that was my thing against baseball. And I find that no one's following the COVID rules. Like, they all high five. They're all sitting on top of each other in the dugout. When somebody gets a hit, they all correct, the helmets and everything. And I don't know. I'm surprised there hasn't been more of an outbreak. The Cardinals thing made sense to me. The guys went to a casino. Smart. And the Marlins thing, supposedly that wasn't a big party situation. That was a catcher for the Marlins and a catcher and a player on the Braves grew up together in the Dominican Republic, and they hugged. That was it.
Yeah.
And 18 players got it from that. And that's why if you have a kink in the bubbles of the NFL, you're going to have it spread wildly. Like you can't not.
Yep.
And one other thing about the NFL, and we should take a quick timeout because you can get Alan on.
Okay.
And we can take a break and stretch our legs and stuff. The issue from my standpoint with the NFL is they had the 77 false positives. You saw that. And that was on a Saturday night. That was last Saturday night. If that's during the regular season, that impacts your regular season. Like, you can't play on that Sunday. Even if they're false positives, you don't know. And you couldn't take that chance because if you could imagine 10 players on the Chicago Bears coming in, I don't know why I keep picking on the Chicago Bears, but you can't imagine them coming in and taking the field and just tackling all over the place. Like, I don't know. And I think the NFL made a bad move canceling their preseason games because they have no idea what they're doing. And
nothing.
You have these teams, you know, I just use the Jets because I cover the Jets together. They have 4 new offensive linemen. They have not taken the field against an opponent until week 1, and they're going to get slaughtered.
They're going to get slaughtered. That's crazy.
And guys are going to get hurt, and it's just going to be messy. And I can't imagine. And I don't know how you're putting expectations on these things. I can't imagine. It's one of those.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and that's kind of where I've been at on this whole thing. And like I said, when they have their numbers that they're putting out, I stand out of the way. You know what I mean? I don't comment. But let's see how it happens. You know,
right?
Let's see how it happens. All right, we're gonna take a quick, 3 or 4 minute break. We'll come back with SU assistant coach Alan Griffin, or at least that we think. And as soon as we know, we will get that going. So we will take a quick pause. We'll be right back.
All right, let's see what he's doing.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Don't stop, don't stop on a piano, yeah. He's a funky man. His name is Tommy, but we call him Barbarella. Take my time on this. Cool. On a D-R-U-M-S. On a D-R-U-M-S. He's a funky man. His name is Michael, but you can call him Master. Just spanking that ass. Dynamite, dynamite, dynamite. Check it out, y'all. Last but not least, home base, yeah, his name is Sonny, but you can call him Crazy Motherfucker.
Hold on. Alan's saying.
Say that one more time.
Saying he doesn't have the info, but I forwarded it to him, so let me see.
I'm gonna give him like the number.
See what's going on here.
Twitch has this new rule about you can't play copyrighted music. And I'm playing only unauthorized music that I used to work with Prince, and he gave us this. And it's not, so Twitch can't notice that it's music that's like been recorded, you know?
And the things you do.
Yeah. He's saying he has the email with no Zoom info on it. His email's AL.
You're on, people can hear you.
Okay. Yep.
Or can you text this to him? He doesn't need the link.
Okay.
I'll send it from my... You okay to come back in 30 seconds? What?
Yeah. Make sure you call him Milk Dud when he comes on.
Oh, and I have...
It's his nickname.
Okay.
So that's what we like to do.
All right, we're back here on Center of Attention. Ryan Blackwell is with us for the entire show. Have you had fun so far?
Oh, great time. Thanks for having me.
Hasn't been a lot of yucks though. We haven't laughed that much. I need to get you to laugh more. I don't know. I need to start doing bits or something. Syracuse assistant coach Alan Griffin is scheduled to join us in a couple of minutes. Oh, and here he is. So we are going to bring him in, and as we do, we go to our guest screen. And look at that. There he is, Coach Griffin, and he's connecting to audio so he can hear us now. Wave if you can hear us. Coach, can you hear us? Nope, not yet. He's connecting. Now we ask him to unmute.
There you go.
There we go.
There
Coach
he
Griffin,
is.
how are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Great.
What's up, bud?
Great. Am I
Hey,
supposed to
hey,
call
buddy.
you? Am I supposed to call you Coach Griffin, or Milk Dud? What am I supposed to call you?
I don't know where you got that from.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You could call me the Dud Man.
The
Milk
Dud Man.
Dud is
Okay.
fine.
All right. And then I
The
have
Dud
one
Man.
other
Yeah,
message
yeah.
before we get into this conversation. Etan Thomas has a message for you. He says, "You suck for never returning my calls, and I'm about to start taking it personal. Tell him that on air, word for word, please." I read it. There it is,
Okay.
right there.
You know what?
It's right there.
And I was supposed to call you. I forgot to call Etan back to tell him that I couldn't make it. I had dinner reservations that night, and I just never called him back. And he knows that I love him. So
That was for the watch
it would
party.
never be.
That was
Yeah,
for the
yes,
watch
yes,
party when
yes.
Etan and Hakeem Warwick went battle for battle because Hakeem Warwick agreed with Coach Boeheim and Etan didn't, and they went to war. And it was like and people in the chat room were like, "This is better than the game we're supposed to be watching," because the Lakers were blowing out the Blazers. And man, those guys could yell at each other. That was fantastic.
That was awesome. I wish I was a fly on the wall there.
Oh yes, well,
I should have tuned in.
Well, now I have your email, and I'm going to send you the link because you gotta see this. Hakeem Warwick was in rare form. That next to the block, that was the best moment I've seen of Hakeem Warwick. I've never seen anything like it. How are you? How is school? How is camp? How is practice? How is things at Syracuse? I was there yesterday. It's weird there.
It's a little weird. It's one of those things where it's just not normal. And obviously the times were not normal. But for the most part, our guys are being as responsible as they can be. And that's allowing us to be with them as much as we can right now. So we're pretty happy with that. And we're pretty proud of those guys for, taking this stuff seriously.
Ryan?
Yes.
Just wants, no, if you want to talk to Coach, you want to talk to Milk Dud over here?
We talk.
Well, I talk to him every day. I'm literally with him every day.
Oh, so
he lives 2 blocks away from me, and we're together all the time. So it's been I haven't seen you in 5 days, so I miss you, bud.
Yeah, I miss you too, bud. I'm shaking. I miss you so much. Hurry up back.
Alan almost. He didn't almost. He had a chance. Obviously, you saw that to go to Indiana, and obviously decided to stay at Syracuse. And your thought process, decided to stay at Syracuse. What was that all about? What made you turn down the offer at Indiana?
I just think that Syracuse has always had a special place in my heart. Being a player here. Obviously even before I was a player here, with Pearl playing here and stuff like that. So the decision wasn't hard.
Right.
Obviously my friends and family are here. And obviously our relationship and stuff like that. It just, and we got a good team coming back. And you know what, at the end of the day, not too many people can say they work alongside of a Hall of Fame, coach. And, I have the pleasure of, having that and being next to him and seeing how he operates every day. You can soak all that stuff up, and hopefully it can make me not even a percentage of a coach that he is. So
But
I'm very fortunate.
it's a testament too, though. You're a high commodity, and you're, being around you and knowing you and playing and being your teammate, being a good recruiter. Not everyone can recruit like you do. And I know that I've seen you around kids. I've seen you around, even when I bring my kids around from Liverpool around you, the relationships that you build, and the energy that you bring and your personality is a great fit for what, kids, you attract kids, and that's a great thing. So it's good to be an asset, and that's a testament to you.
I listen to a lot of rap music, and I just the hip hop today, and I just take some of the lingo and then apply it to the kids, and boom, I'm an instant friend. A friend to the ends.
Don't say you're blasting the WAP song around.
No,
please.
what's crazy? I've never heard the song into its entirety. I don't know if I can. I just don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't have no interest in listening to this song. I know a lot of people are losing their minds over it, but I just have no interest in the song. So
they must
I'm
never heard the Two
away.
Live Crew back in the day. I mean, it's
Live
pretty
Crew.
along the same. I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff. We used to blast. Uncle Luke.
Yeah, Uncle Luke. Yeah.
Old dirty Luke.
Hey, I'm old enough to remember when Purple Rain came out and Tipper Gore challenged the lyrics and said that, and that led to the explicit lyrics on the CDs. And back then it was cassettes. It was that. I'll ask both of you guys because we're similar in age but not the same. What's your music? If you're not trying to recruit young players to play at Syracuse, what's your music when you want to go out and hit the gym? And I'll ask the same thing to Ryan, but Coach first.
I like 2000s, hip hop,
Okay.
and go back into the late 90s, with Biggie and Tupac and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's my my go-to. And then when I want to mellow it down, I listen to some some R&B. So yeah.
Okay, Ryan.
The same. If I'm going to work out and go to the gym, it'll be Biggie, Tupac. But I like the newer stuff. Drake, Rick Ross, Fabulous, which is obviously 2000s, and Jadakiss, Nas, guys like that. So some of the newer stuff I enjoy. It's okay, but I'm more old school. I prefer old school more a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why we get along so well, Seth.
But
Like
then
we
when we're hanging out, just drinking wine or something and just kicking back, I'll throw on, something.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire all
go.
day.
Now you're
Commodores.
talking. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah. He's
a little Anita
Black
Baker here and there.
Anita Baker. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Black's the DJ of the crew.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
I've got 5,000 songs on an array of music on my phone, so I love music.
We could have done this whole
Huge
show
music
on that.
fan.
We were talking about
We could have.
Stupid
Oh yeah.
COVID nonsense. My goodness, I did the wrong show here.
There are no issues in the world to talk
No
about.
issues in the
Let's
world.
talk about some music.
Coach, let's do one COVID thing because I want to ask you about some things that are going on campus and in the world. North Carolina has 210 positive cases. Alabama has 560. Syracuse has 3. How?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem right.
Seth, I'll tell you this. Our administration has done such a fabulous job in terms of, the awareness to our kids and doing whatever it takes for that number to stay as low as possible. And, on top of that, I think, for us, for basketball, coach talks to our guys every day about being responsible, wearing your mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and he's been adamant about it. And again, I can praise our, administration for so much. They've done a phenomenal job. Our trainer, Brad Pike, has been on it. He's been on committees. He's been, doing so much stuff with COVID. So he's way ahead of the game, and he's been, getting our guys to understand that this stuff is serious, and our guys are doing a great job, because I think they want to play, and they know if they go out and be irresponsible and, our numbers go up, then obviously they're going to shut it down and, ain't no more, working on the mellow. Our games might get, cut. So you just, these guys really want to play. They work so hard this summer, the times that they can work. And I think that's why our numbers are down, because they're really responsible.
But do you believe, and you don't have to name a school if you don't feel comfortable, but do you believe that other schools that you're going to be playing against are treating it as serious? Because I'm telling you, NC State's football program had to stop because they had an outbreak. And they're on Syracuse's schedule. And I know you're not dealing with football, you're dealing with basketball. But to me, it's all about, in the NFL, everyone seems to be following the same rules. And in college, everybody does whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I think also too, if you kind of look at the states that these outbreaks are happening, in these schools, the numbers are high. They're spiking again, and for us, Governor Cuomo, you can say whatever you want to say. He's been extra cautious, and I think that's why our numbers are going down, and our numbers are down, and that's a testament to the work and the hard decisions that Cuomo had to make. So, but I just think that the states that are spiking is where those schools are, are happening at. But also too, kids are coming from Florida to go back to school, go back to schools in North Carolina or somewhere else like that, and maybe they have it coming to campus and and attracting it. So it's unfortunate that some of these situations are spiking a little bit, but hopefully they can kind of get it underhand, and we can get back to playing collegiate sports, which we all need it. I mean, it's just a staple in everybody's family and with friends and watching football games on Saturdays, and it's important.
But now I'm reminded, you and I met, Coach Griffin. We were watching an SU football game. Who was I with? Oh my God, the running back.
Was it?
No, the running back.
Mungro.
James Mungro. Thank you.
Yeah.
James Mungro and I left to use the restroom, and you took off. And I was not supposed to take that personal. I just remember that.
No. During the football games, I got a bunch of buddies. They got boxes, so I'm bouncing from box to box and just hanging around,
And I came back and I saw James, and I go, "Where'd Coach Griffin go?" And he goes, "I don't know. He took off." And I went, "Was it something I said? Did I do something?"
Probably something you said.
It probably was something I said.
He is just rude like that. That's really what it is.
You can tell. You can
really.
You can just see it on my face. Did you speak to your team after the events of this week in Kenosha, Washington? Did you speak to your team one-on-one as a group, just about things that were going on Wednesday when the NBA shut down and all the things that are just being said? What did you as a coach say and do with your team?
Well, I think as a group, coach addressed it to everybody and basically, opened up the floor to, some guys, if anybody has something to say, let's talk it out. But for the most, other than that, no one's really stepped up. I just think in those settings, sometimes kids can be a little intimidating, in that setting. But, the one thing that coach really did say is that, it's going to take more than just wearing a T-shirt and writing on your sneakers, Black Lives Matter. Like, it's about action. It's about getting out there, hopefully this election, voting, being a responsible adult in your community, and going about, understanding that, we all created equal. And he really kind of hit home on a bunch of points. And, walking out of there, if I was a student athlete, I would walk away saying, my coach got my back. You know what I mean? So it was good. The guys were great about it. And, it was just one of those things.
Ryan, what's your thought on what?
Yeah, it would be interesting to because when we were in college, we didn't really have anything this big, this magnitude. And I just think of myself now at 43 and, being so much older and having so many more experiences, how we would react when we were in school at 19 and 20. I'm not sure, if we would, be vocal, because you're just so young, you don't have a lot of experience. Like you said, a lot of guys probably are just probably shocked, probably confused as to what's going on. But now being a lot older, Alan, and we spend a lot of time together, we have a lot of conversations. So, and I think it goes back again, it's good to have a foundation, somebody like Coach and you guys and, their families at home that they can lean on and talk to and communicate with. It really, at the end of the day, it really comes down to communication. We don't communicate enough in between cultures. And I think basketball and sports in general does a good job of bringing people together to have those conversations.
I can see you're looking over at practice, and if you have to run, one last question.
No.
Do you think that the way pro sports has reacted, starting with the NBA and then going into baseball and hockey and even the NFL, do you think that has a massive impact? And I'm not trying to demean it when I say this. I would rather hear from cops. And I told Etan next week when we do the show, if he wants to have people on to talk about this, with all due respect to both of you gentlemen, the respect I have, I want to hear police officers. I want to hear police officers denouncing this stuff, because I just feel like we did this wrong. We've had this conversation.
Right.
We've had both of you guys on talking about this before.
I told him about Joe, Alan. We spoke about Joe and the cops that we know in Syracuse and how, they're all good guys. And we've had conversations with them. And it's unfortunate that they drive down the street and they're given the middle finger by kids and people in the community because, obviously with the times, the situation, it's crazy.
Yeah, and the things that I don't condone and the things that I get really mad at is, I'm watching CNN this morning and, there's a cop, just standing by his patrol car and somebody just threw something at him and hit him in the head and, basically could have killed him, if it hit. And I'm just sitting there saying, like, that's just not helping the cause. You know what I mean? Obviously protesting is good and it's great, but looting and rioting, sometimes it's just one of those things that, it's very wishy-washy with me because I just don't see the reasoning about it. Yeah, it's taking money out of big corporations when you go to, Targets and stuff like that and you loot and you do all that stuff there. But, is that really going to help the change? Because to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of that stuff, the looting and stuff is in your own community. Like, you know what I mean? You're burning down your own community and you're just making it, worse. So you come outside your door, you see, boarded up buildings all the time. Like, I mean, it just, I just don't understand it. It's something that I probably will have to understand why they do that part of it. But again, like I know a bunch of police officers and I know that there are good guys out there and good guys that are police officers. So, it's just, it's hard to, how you going to differentiate them? I don't know, but we just got to figure out a way, and we got to figure out something that's going to work for everybody.
It's well said. I like I said, I quoted Bradley McDougall, the safety for the New York Jets, and he just said, and I thought it was very poignant, he just said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And
yeah,
I just
definitely.
I'm thinking of things, and when they decided to put Black Lives Matter on the court, everyone thought that was a huge gesture. And yeah, there was some right-wing nut jobs that hated it, and I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what was so offensive about it. I thought it was very nice, but I didn't think it saved one life. I didn't think it stopped one racist cop from being a racist cop. And I'm not trying to demean it, but I'll say that about Colin Kaepernick. What did Colin Kaepernick do if this is all still happening? It's still happening just as much as it did back in 2016, as it did back in 2013, and on and on and on.
Well, I think with the Kaepernick thing, it's making, the people that, that looked upon him or frowned upon what he was doing, making them look really like really bad. And he's brought so much awareness to the issues that's happening today. Now, yeah, bringing awareness and acting is two different things. And I just think that now the action part is coming. The action part is here. I think that he was before, like almost before his time, and he should be up there in terms of with all the great, social activists of our time. I mean, it's because it was one of those things where he sacrificed. He went out there, he sacrificed. He knew that he was going to get backlash, but he was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Ryan, you want to get the last word in here? Because
Well,
got to go to practice.
Yeah, we said I alluded to it earlier, and Alan, what do you think as a culture besides protesting and kneeling and getting people like Mark Cuban to put pressure on police departments for funding, and what can we do as a culture on our end to better ourselves? Because it's not just one side. There's got to
Right.
there's more moving pieces and dynamics to this.
Well, we gotta be at the table, and guys like ourselves gotta be at the table. We gotta find a way to get to the table, especially with law enforcement. But and my thing that I remember back when I was growing up. Now, obviously, police brutality been going on for a long time, and
Sure.
the one thing that I always remembered was that there were like 3 or 4 cops from my neighborhood that used to patrol my neighborhood, or
So
from
you knew 'em.
Bed-Stuy, which was, yeah, they knew me or I knew them. And it was always, it was always one of those things where they understood the culture. So they understood that not all of these kids are doing bad. Yeah, they might be on the streets or whatever, but they're not doing bad, or they're not trying to be bad. And I just think that there's a disconnect in terms of understanding the neighborhoods that you're patrolling, and I think that that's huge, and that's a huge piece to it.
I said that exactly earlier, that there's a huge disconnect, and the people that you're patrolling sometimes aren't the people that you're used to, who you grew up with, and you're not used to being around an element of people, and that's that just goes back to your experiences, and that experience is the best teacher, and some people just don't have that.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment. I do. I have no problem continuing the dialogue. I just want to move it forward.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like, and this doesn't, but I don't want to feel like this was the same conversation that if I turned on the archive and I saw the shows we did right after George Floyd was killed, and it's going to sound the same. You know what I mean? I just wanted, when I thought we were doing the show today and I found out Ryan was doing the show today, I just wanted to say something different. That's all.
I liked what you said about the police speaking up and hearing a voice and hearing police speak up and hearing their side. And obviously part of the problem is the police feel, like Joe said, he feels defeated, and their department feels defeated because they feel like people are just giving them the middle finger. So that's tough too.
No, but what I said is that, if there's a rally in, downtown Chicago, and there's a microphone or a megaphone or something, get a cop, and I don't care if he's white or black.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to wear the uniform and he's off duty, but have him hold up his badge and say what we're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And say that and have it be from a cop, because when it's a cop, it matters more to me.
Yeah.
Right. Especially in these times, definitely.
And if you know somebody in your force that is a racist, if you see something that is just derogatory, report it. Report it. Get that guy. Also, point that guy out.
Yeah, that doesn't happen a lot.
You know what, Seth? You know what though? That also too. We might need to spend a little bit more money on screening, because if you screen these people, some of these people, you can tell
to get
right
into
away.
The force. It's too easy to get into the force.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's a hard job and it doesn't pay a lot.
Right, but also too, I'm saying screening, whereas you can look at social media, you can see a lot of stuff that are kind of have red flags where you're like, all right, maybe not this guy, but
especially nowadays, again, it's so polarizing, right?
Oh yeah. So, yep, fellas, I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for doing this, Milk Dud.
Thanks. All right. Thanks.
You have a message. Hold on. Do you have a message for Etan?
Tell him I love you. I'm sorry,
I'm not texting him
and
that.
I'll make it up.
Okay, that I'll write.
All
The
right.
last part I'll write. I
great.
like him a lot, but I'm not writing that.
He's
yet.
he's my teammate. I love all my teammates. They're all good guys.
And I just covered the team, and I
You
just
said
think
that
you all are
before.
nice.
Well, no, I didn't say that before. No.
That's true. Coach, thanks so much.
All right, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. That is, we can take that. And there we go. Ryan, thank you so much. Let's go.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I had a good time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we got to
Yeah.
talk about some real issues. And I found out your musical tastes. Next time we'll open with Anita Baker.
You would love. I've literally all over the board. I love music. Love
I
it.
do too. I people who watch this show know, I usually only play Prince because, well, first of all, that's my favorite, but also, when I worked with him in 2013, he gave us all this music to play, and it's non-copyrighted music, so we have it, and that's why I play it on the show, so it doesn't get flagged by Twitch.
Yeah.
But I love Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I love what other music that I love? Oh, Lenny Kravitz. That's my guy.
Lenny's great. Yep.
Stevie Wonder.
Santana, Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. I could listen to Stevie Wonder all day, like literally all day, and just go down a rabbit hole, and I don't come out. And I don't come out. And it's
Best of Stevie Wonder's great.
There's plenty of wonderful things, and
Yeah.
there's such good music, and I would love to live in a simpler time when we can do a show and just talk about music.
Yeah.
I said to Etan months ago, I want to do a show where a bunch of people come on and rank their top 5 ESPN 30 for 30s.
Oh, that'd be good.
It'd be so much fun, right? It would be
Yeah.
so much fun. And what I would try to do is get the trailers, and I could call up the trailers to all of them. So like when you name your first one, I could go, oh, we have that, and
Requiem for a Big East was amazing.
The best.
The
That's
best.
one of the good ones. Elway to Marino, that's a great one. My favorite.
Bad Boys.
Oh,
I
that's
love the
very
Bad
good.
Boys one. Yeah.
My favorite is the June 17th, 1994. It's the
the OJ.
one- It's OJ and the Knicks
Yep.
Rockets. And I remember that day I interned at WFAN in New York, and I was at that Rangers parade for WFAN, and I started my day at that parade, and I ended my day watching that. And you have 2 minutes? I'll tell you a great O.J. Simpson story.
Yeah.
Like I have a great O.J. Simpson story.
Yeah.
So there is a guy at WFAN named Paul Olden. Paul Olden was the one-time voice of the New York Jets. He was the one-time voice of the Tampa Bay Rays, and now he is the public address announcer at Yankee Stadium. He's the guy, your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. Like, he's that guy.
Yeah.
And in the summer of 94, he was a sports anchor at WFAN in New York, and your job as an intern was to answer the phone. And I answered the phone, and some guy on the trading floor, it was a Monday morning, and some guy on the trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange calls up in a panic, and he says, hey, can you guys confirm this? O.J. Simpson killed his wife and her friend. And I went, what? And he goes, you got to tell me. And I said, I'll look into it. That's all I could say. And I go over to Paul Olden, and I say, we just got a call from the stock exchange. O.J. Simpson killed his wife and her friend. And Paul Olden, who is about 20 years older than me, looks me in the eye, and he called me son, and I hate that. And he goes, son, you have to learn to have a nose for news. Don't chase red herrings. O.J. Simpson couldn't kill his wife. And that's what he said. And we sat on it. We didn't do anything for 5 hours, my entire internship. I get off I get out of the fan, and I turn on the news and traffic station. Our top story, O.J. Simpson's wife found dead. And I was like, oh my God, and at that point you didn't know that he was connected, and no one knew any of that. But I was like, oh my God, that guy knows something.
Yeah.
And to this day, if I see Paul Olden, I will go up to him and I'll go, hey, Paul.
You idiot.
And I just go, You still think there's no chance? You still think there's no chance? I tease him all the time. And that's my favorite OJ story.
That's great.
All right, man. Let's do this again.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
All right. That's
Appreciate
Ryan
it.
Blackwell, folks. I'm Seth Everett. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday at 1 o'clock.